Welcome to Camp Confidential, Beyond the Bars. I'm Katrina McLarin, and with my co-host Cheryl Womack, author, entrepreneur and philanthropist, we tell it like it is. In Season 1, we take you inside the walls of the Women's Federal Prison Camp. From pre-sentencing to navigating daily life behind bars, we offer practical advice, survival strategies and insights that no one tells you before you go in. No sugarcoating, no cliches. This podcast is for information and entertainment purposes only. Be sure to do your own research and consult a professional. Today's episode is titled Shots Fired, Adding Time, and it's based off the book How to Go to Camp Surviving in a Women's Federal Prison by Cheryl Womack, available now on Amazon. Now, this episode walks you through the pitfalls of added time to your sentence. Cheryl, what's the first thing you need to know?
I think that the first thing you need to know is that for federal prison, unlike state or city or any other kind of prison, you automatically earn, as long as you're booked in for 12 months and a day or longer, which most people are, you earn 15% good time off. So if you're in there for 2 years, you just take 15% of that time and back it off. And that most likely is the time you'll do. The problem with that is, or I guess their rationale behind that is, one way that they can keep you in line is by giving you a shot. And a shot removes good time. And the hard part about the shot is it's up to the warden or the administrative executive group to determine how much time you lose. I didn't see anything that was like a book saying if you did this, you lost this much time. It really was a very random judgment call. And that to me was very scary.
You could, in effect, say you got a 2-year sentence. If you're not behaving well in prison or the mood of the guard, that time can be extended. You're not just losing good time. You're getting added time.
There are people who did more time because they got in trouble so often, that they had, first you take away all the time and then they can add time. So you have to really be aware of a shot. And again, I'm going to say it probably in every episode, but getting in trouble is up to the mood of the guard on duty. So you really have to learn about your guards and learn what mood they're in. And honestly, one of the best things to do is and your COs can give you, any CO there can give you a shot. You didn't come teach a class. You messed up something. Maybe let's just say you're in the laundry room and you messed up the laundry machine thing and they had to shut it down. You could get a shot for that. It's not as likely, but you could. You can get in trouble for anything.
So what's maybe some of the more silly things that you sort of thought you could get a shot for that you could, like?
I mean, basic things they get shots for is like you have to be back in the camp, in the dorms and in the area off of the campus grounds 30 minutes before every official count. And at night, you have to be inside by 9 o'clock for a 10 o'clock count. And literally they'll tell you, last call for campus and everybody knows to get inside. But there are people who, wander off to the track for their last cigarette smoke or whatever they're doing. And, there are people who after 10 o'clock, after everybody's gone to sleep and they think the guards aren't around, might go outside. Another thing that they do, which doesn't happen often, and they watch for it, is people will come because there's no guard, there's no rails, there's no barbed wire, there's no anything else. People will come and there's a huge yards around our dorms and they will throw goods into the yard and you'll have girls sneak out and crawl across the grass to get the goods to bring them into cell. So that's how some of the contraband gets into the place, whether it's packs of cigarettes or whether it's, nail polish. I don't know what it is, but whatever those things are, you will certainly go to the shoe, get a shot, have a lot of bad things happen if that happens to you. You can get in trouble for sitting on the grass. I think they really have to be in a bad mood for you to get a shot, but you can get a shot for standing on the grass because it's one of the rules, keep off the grass. You can get in trouble for being in the cafeteria after they deem the cafeteria is closed. You can get in trouble for, you get in this line outside of the bus stop when it's time to do the count. And if you step forward or talk when they go by, you can get shots for that. So you just have to stand there, at attention like you're in the military and get counted. And then you have to keep your mouth shut, go sit inside the bus stop and sit there quietly, nobody talking, certainly that they can't hear, until they announce that the count was good. From those standpoints, when guards come around, it's very militaristic.
Yeah, I think you've indicated this before. A lot of the women that are actually inside there, it's drug-related crime as to why they're there. So does that become more of an issue for shots in prison because of that and behavior?
Yeah, I mean, it can. Probably 95% of the people serving time are in for drugs, maybe a higher percentage than that. Whether they were a mule, whether they were, I mean, you could go to jail for being in a raid where drugs are there in the, in the car or in possession at a party, and you get swooped up and you're where there, is cocaine or meth or whatever there is. You may not even know it, but you're going to go to jail because you're one of the people that get caught up in that. Now, that's not to say you've maybe never done. Often the girls would say, it isn't that I haven't done meth, but I wasn't doing anything at that time. Because sometimes, they set you up for when they want to catch you and figure out it's time to go. I saw girls get shots because they flash somebody on their video chats. Or if another girl comes and talks to you and whoever you're talking to on a video chat, if two people talk on a phone, like they all know the person involved, and two girls get on the same phone call, you can get a shot. I mean, you can sneeze and get a shot.
And that would be the same in the visiting room, right? You're not meant to engage with anyone else or...
Right. So again, it depends upon the guard and their mood on duty, because the typical guards that were there most of the time were pretty reasonable about talking to other people. And like we had, when I first got there was this one gentleman who was just adorable. And he was like he wasn't orientation. He was more like the hospitality person. He just welcomed you with a big smile when you came in. Because the first time you go into visitation, you're crying. I cried because you're so happy to see the person that you're seeing. It's the outside world. It's your first connection. Some of those girls don't see anybody for a long time. There was a guy who would just tell you, oh, this place is pretty relaxed, blah, blah, blah. And you'd see him every week when he'd come to see his wife. My husband became orientation. He liked to take people and say, here's how the machines work, and here's how your cash card works, and here's where the bathrooms are. That he was just real helpful with that kind of stuff. You can get a guard who'll come in there. And so you get to know people. I mean, if you're in there for 15 months and you see their family every week, every weekend, you get to know them. And so you're saying hi and talking to them and asking them how they've been. And you'll have guards will come in and go, who's your visitor? Stick to your visitor. And or they'll say, you all have to sit, facing away from each other in the same line, and you can't look at each other. Or they'll say you can sit across from each other and you can't sit beside each other. I mean, you just have to know who the guard is and what their rules are.
It actually sounds like it's really hard to navigate when you're navigating through the whims of someone else's fancy.
It definitely messes with your visits, and visits can only happen once a week during those time frames that you look forward to so much. Like I think I expressed in one, my younger son felt like he was put through like a prisoner when he came through, and was such a nervous wreck by the time he got in to see me, that he didn't like to come see me. And I understood that.
We actually touched on in a previous episode that you actually got a shot for theoretically discussing business over a phone call, which actually was to do with the mortgage of your house, the remortgage of your house.
Right.
But I'm assuming that, obviously you can get a shot for that. And in your case, you did. And luckily you were able to dispute that and have that removed. But I'm assuming that if you discussed business with other prisoners in any way as well, that's going to attract a shot, anything like
sure.
that.
Oh, sure. You can't. I mean, it's interesting now. You think about one of my classes was an entrepreneurism class, and we did business plans. And I asked the assistant warden to come and listen to our presentations at the end, which horrified the girls to have to get up and speak, but they did. It's okay to do it in an entrepreneurism class, but if you were talking about a business you wanted to start, when you're getting out, even if you talked about business you wanted to start while you're getting out with whoever you're talking to on the phone, you can get a shot for that. You can get a shot because you've got a pair of earrings on, because let's face it, you were supposed to come in with some little basic hoops, and girls have every kind with beads and stuff. They make rings, they make bracelets. They'll have 10 bracelets on. They'll have earrings on. They'll have a ton of rings on. I mean, they're dressed out to the nines in there with things that you can buy inside. And, got to remember not to wear those up to the visitor's room, because, the guard will say, take them off. You can't wear those in here, and you can get a shot.
And also, the other thing you've got to watch too is, I suppose, to a certain degree, is not just the guards, but snitches. So, you've got to remember the walls and that have ears. Explain that to us a little bit.
So, I mean, one time I was sitting talking to when I had a place in the dorm, I was sitting on my bed talking to the girl beside me, and I was telling her that I thought I'd figured out when I was going to get out, what my good time would be. And the girl in the bed on the other side of the cylinder blocks in her bed was listening and thought I was telling her she had a timeout. Well, she was very due her timeout. And so because she was due her timeout, she went to the case manager and told the case manager, boy, she gave him what for why do I know when I'm getting out? She doesn't know when she's getting out. Well, she wasn't in our conversation. She didn't understand I was speculating, and I got in trouble with that case manager. I mean, he was just mean to me. And I went bawling and crying to my husband on the phone going, I'm never going to get a timeout. This guy doesn't like me, and he's who's in charge of it. When you think about it more seriously, let's just talk about, if you're talking about when you get out, it's another thing to respectfully not talk about when do you think you get out, or even when you get out, to talk about your getting out and carry on about it too much, even though you're excited, because there are people there that are going to be there 10, 15, 20 years. It's just disrespectful.
Yeah.
It's
The other
hurtful.
the flip side of that though too is that you want to have hope and look to the future, and it's in a way it's sad that you can't express that either.
I mean, it's a hard dance. You can quietly do it, but there's cinder blocks. It's wide open. If you say something in one corner, the acoustics will carry it, and that whole place will hear what you've said. I mean, people had nightmares in there, and everybody get woke up. I would have nightmares. The girl above me would just reach down with a rolled up magazine and smack me to wake me up. Just because she got so used to me having nightmares in there. She's like, wake up. What else would you have when you're in prison? You're having nightmares. So that's what you get for putting me in bed at 10 o'clock at night.
And the other thing about snitches, didn't you have an incident happen where you sort of saw a fight or something happen like that? And you
Yeah. I mean, I think I talked about it a little bit in a previous episode, but I hadn't been there very long, and a huge fight between two girls. I think the most common fight that happens in prison are one of the girls is getting out. And so the other girl knows she's getting out. So she gets another girlfriend. And the girl who's leaving is now fighting with the new girlfriend. And I mean, these can break out into, I don't know what the fight was about. It was a hard brawl, but I came in horrified coming in from doing I don't know if I was town driving or teaching or what I was doing, but I came in and got on the phone, called my husband, using more of my minutes that day because I was horrified by the fight, and talked to him about it and said, oh my gosh, and this was, they're really punching each other out and carrying on. About 2 hours later, on the PA system, Womack, you need to come up to the registration office. And so I go up to the office, and I have a guard from FCI and a counselor grilling me about what I knew about the incident, what was going on. And I absolutely could have gotten a shot. That guard from FCI was like, you don't need to lie to us. You know what's going on. Who are those? I just got there. I don't know who girls are. Anything like that horrified me, and I didn't stand around and watch it. I just walked my way through. I asked some other girls what happened with it, but again, I didn't even know their names to be able to talk, and they weren't buying it, but they finally just went with it and decided I did not know anything about it. Another thing you can get a shot for is, remember we talked about things you buy in the commissary to have. Well, one of the things that happens is that the people who work in the warehouse for extra money sell all the fresh produce out the back door. So you could get on a weekly amount of giving somebody commissary, and they're bringing you fresh onions, fresh peppers, fresh fruit, fresh, whatever. And you never see the good fresh fruit inside the camp because it's all been sold out the back door. And remember, when it's coming through there, it's coming for the men's and the women's. So there's not that much left over for the women's because there's more men there. But what you're getting in there is, if you finally make friends with the right people. I mean, I could wake up and have a honey bun on my desk or my station every morning, or have an orange or a banana or something every single day, because you made friends with people and paid them so much a week and through commissary, and they brought you stuff.
In your case, I know you were saying something to me that you would buy sort of 2-minute noodles and add tuna, and prisoners could cook you actual food. Like, I think you were saying that, I don't know if was it a burrito that you used to get made on a Friday night or something?
A scratch enchilada from this one gal. They were unbelievable. But oh my gosh, the enchiladas were some of the food they made there. And I mean, let's just face it, because you had fresh vegetables, it smelled delicious. Grilled onions with an iron. You can't believe how good that smelled. You didn't smell things like that when you were in the cafeteria.
So the inmates are cooking this food with irons that you would iron your clothes with, right? Is that what we're talking about here?
Yes,
Yeah.
you either have to, we didn't have a microwave so you either had to figure out how to sneak into the visitor's room and use that microwave. You had to boil it with the hot boiling water to soften it up, or you had to use an iron, and irons were in big demand. I mean, you didn't lose. People lined up and took their turns for who got the iron when. Who's next?
Definitely sounds like a cottage industry in cooking, that's for sure. Prison cooking.
Somebody ought to do a book, How to Cook with an Iron While You're in Prison, and the recipes.
And and you said this before, but when you got your bedroll and everything, that you were only allocated a certain number of items, your 2 sheets or whatever, and a blanket, and you're not allowed a pillow. But yet a lot of women they make things like this, and that would be considered a shot, right?
Absolutely. You get a shot just for having a pillow or a pillowcase. And the other thing that happens is you get 2 sets of sheets, or you might just get 1 set of sheets. And you're supposed to trade them in once a week and get another set of sheets. And we all had at least 2 sets of sheets, everybody, because you wanted to make your bed and make sure it's perfect and be able to flip it out and send your laundry out and still have your bed made. I think we had 2 sets of sheets, but everybody had at least 3. Some people had an extra set because they slept on top of the original sheets, but you were only supposed to have 1 blanket, but again, it was really cold in there, and so people would have 2 and 3 blankets. There were just all sorts of things like that that you could get your hands on that weren't allowed, that could get you in trouble and cost you to have shots.
You did get the shot that was removed. What's the process for that? So the guard says to you, right, I'm writing you up. I mean, maybe I watched too much Orange is the New Black. So I'm trying to understand what that process is. And then what happens to you? Are you taken to the FCI? What happens?
Okay, so the one shot that I got called up to the administrative offices and had no idea why I was being called up there. As soon as I got called up there, I got told I needed to go over to the FCI offices to get because I was getting a shot, and I didn't know why. I couldn't fathom what I'd done wrong. It was just I was scared to death. Now I'm going to the FCI that has barbed wire, double entries, all these things that are horrifying for a big prison, and you have to go check in at the gate and at the visitors gate and tell them you're there to get a shot, and then you wait, for big burly guards to come out and bring you to another room and ask you what'd you do, and I don't know what I did. And then when I got told what I did, or they'll let you read exactly what they're writing you up for, and I'm like, I didn't do that. And he goes, well, you can register a filing about it to appeal it, but this is your shot. You've got it. You have a shot. And when you get a shot at FCI and you have to take the piece of paper back, that shot stays there until you're able to appeal it. And if you don't get it appealed, you still do not know how much good time you're going to lose or what are the consequences. I mean, if it's bad, you could go to the SHU, come back, and then deal with what are other consequences. It can be really, really bad. And I've seen people taken away for that.
That's it, right? Your anything that you might have acquired that you don't have a receipt for commissary is gone.
Well, for some girls, they went over for the weekend, maybe for a weekend or for overnight for it, and so they might not have. But some girls would go over and they didn't know how long they'd be gone. And if they sent you over to the county jail, which was where our shoe was, we didn't have an official shoe. Then they would come and pack all your goods in a huge laundry basket, cart them all out, and then they go through everything. And so anything you don't have receipts for or is considered contraband comes out of it. So when you come back in, you are extremely limited in what you get back, and you basically are starting over. You are starting over to develop extra shoes or extra clothing or extra anything. It can be really a difficult thing. But again, for those girls that got in a fight, they went to the shoe.
What happens when the guards shake down a dorm? Because I'm assuming that it's because they are looking for contraband as such. Did that happen when you were there?
I've heard that the rules are that they're supposed to randomly check in the dorms and go through various lockers, just so many a night. But we didn't have the staffing, and the men at night wouldn't even come down to the camp to do that. But we had one guard at the end who did come in and would check various people's, and they're basically going through to look and see if, not so much if you have receipts, but it's really easy if you've got food like fruit that it can't come out of the cafeteria because you can't bring any food out of the cafeteria. That's a shot. You can get in trouble for it. Then they're looking at that kind of stuff. They're looking at if you've got 7 bags and you've got nail polish and jewelry and all these different things in there. They can see you have things you're not supposed to have. There are people in there might have 7 pairs of sweatpants. You can't have 7 pairs of sweatpants. They limit you for what you can have for sweatpants, t-shirts, things like that. Even though you bought them, you're limited to them. And like when girls would go from one camp to another camp or wherever they went, if they were being switched to a different place, they would ask them, what can I take? What am I allowed to take? Because again, they might have 5 t-shirts and they may say you can bring 3 t-shirts. So now, even if they could have had 5 where they are, they can only have 3 where they're going, and they've got to get rid of them. They're not going to let them bring them, and they'd get in trouble at the other camp.
So let's talk a little bit about, was there a time that you felt unsafe? Because let's face it, you don't want to be known as a snitch either in that sort of situation and in that environment. Was there a time that you actually felt unsafe and
Well,
were a
I,
bit
I
concerned?
I was never a snitch, but I went and told on her. So there was a girl who came in. So I'm in the Troublemakers bus stop, and the bus stop beside me was empty. And this girl kept getting in trouble for thumping everybody in the head and picking fights with everybody, and was very loud and picked some bad fights. Not always so physical, but a lot of screaming and carrying on, or a big pop in the head. And so she got put in the bus stop beside us, and she was in there for about 2 weeks by herself, and she really enjoyed having her privacy. And then it started filling up. and she had several people in there. Well, I'd made friends with a couple of the 2 or 3 of the girls that came in through Big Sisters, and they would say, well, come and get us when it's time to go eat. And I'd come in. Well, it was bad enough they had people in the room that she didn't want to share with. She did not want people coming in that room. And I just rubbed her raw. So she would always go, you need to get out of here, and yell at me and stuff. It's like, I don't need to get out of here. Although technically I really shouldn't have been in that bus stop. I learned later you really shouldn't go into the other bus stops. We all did. But anyway, finally, within a couple times going in there, for different counts or meals or what have you, I went in there and she just got up, and she was a big woman. She was like 6'1", 250 pounds, a big woman, and come over and thumped me in the head. And I just said, don't you hit me. And she thumped me again. And I'm like, I just burst into tears and went into the other room and thought, I'm here, I'm here 2 weeks. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what happens if you get into a fight. I'm not going to hit somebody. First, I could get the crap beat out of me. She's a big girl. Second, I'm not going to get in trouble for fighting. I mean, I'm just not. I'm not going
So
to.
that happened to you within the first 2 weeks of you being in the
Oh,
camp?
yeah. Yeah, leave it to me to find the person who's ready to fight. So it was horrifying, and everybody in there was just horrified that I got thumped, and so I went up and turned her in and wanted her written up, and both sides got talked to about it. That's all that happened with her because she was already in the troublemakers thing. So a long story short with her truly is, I mean, she had anger management issues. And toward the end of my time there, she actually had a visitor while I had a visitor. And he came over to introduce herself to my husband, Dean. And I said, this is who she was, and said, this is the woman who thumped me in the head. And she goes, I'm so sorry, Miss Womack. I wish I'd have never thumped you in the head. Will you please forgive me? And I said, I don't need to forgive you. Just quit thumping people in the head. It's just people change when they're there. She'd calmed down as she'd gotten more into the system of everything. I don't know how long she'd been. I mean, I didn't know if she'd just been there. She'd been there for a while. She came out and got in trouble. I didn't know her story, but it was a horrifying experience. It was because now I'm engaging with the warden. I'm engaging with the administrative offices, which you don't want those people to know who you are unless you're a town driver and you're supposed to go in and out for some reason. I mean, you want to be an unknown. And between, getting contraband mail and getting thumped and a few other things like that, I was well known.
Yeah. And I suppose you want to keep a low profile, but that didn't kind of happen for you.
I'm not very good at that, and I hated that. I mean, I would take people later as I became a town driver for drives, and they're going, well, you're a Womack. I hear your name called all the time on the PA system.
That's your contraband mail, right? With your friends sending in glitter in their cars.
Or, somebody's thumped me and I'm getting called in, or I've seen a fight and they want to pull me up and find out what I saw in the fight. I went up to administrative offices a lot, and the mailroom's up there. So you go up, usually those are the 5 a.m.s where it woke everybody up to tell everybody. I'm sure they preferred I didn't get 5 a.m. mail, so they all got woke up, being told, Womack, get up here for your contraband mail.
So that's not going to put you on everyone's favorite list, I'm sure.
Absolutely not. Even though you're supposed to start waking up at 5:30, none of it. I mean, you didn't have to be dressed and ready till 7.
So tell me, I know that you had a nickname of Crybaby when you first went in. So what was
I
that
did
all
not
about?
have a nickname of Crybaby. I was just
I thought it was a
no, I was Biddy. Biddy was my
Biddy.
nickname as an old lady, but because I was so much older than all of them. But I was known as a crybaby. I mean, I if something happened, I would just cry. If I talked to my husband, it was a bad phone call, I'd cry. If I talked to somebody, I didn't understand what they were doing or why they did it, and I was frustrated, I'd go away and cry. When I got thumped, I cried. When I have a bad conversation again with Dean on the phone, I'd cry. When I got sent out of the bus stop and into permanent living spaces in the dorm, which was supposed to be the good dorm B, where all the adult, mature women are. And I'm like, I don't want to go in there with all those old ladies. And I was older than all of them. But I'd cry. And when I came out of admin, I literally had my bunkies popping out of where they're working going, did they move you, Biddy? And I'm like, yes, they did. They moved me. I've got to move. And I said, can I please just stay in there? They're going, no, you can't. But I decorated the place. And I was like the dorm mom, in our bus stop, and kept it ruly and stuff. And I had gotten very comfortable with that because I was in there for so darn long. I mean, I was in there for like 90 days, 120 days, which usually you're supposed to be in there 2-3 weeks, but I was in there forever. And it's like, I'm ready to stay here now. I mean,
It became home to you, right? So
you just get comfortable with what you've got, and you don't know what's down that dorm. And I will tell you, if I had to pick between being in a bus stop and being eavesdropped on by 9 other women versus being in a dorm with 45 women that are listening to everything you say, I'd take the bus stop every day.
Wow. Okay.
No privacy. No privacy.
Do you think emotionally that it got better over time as you learned to cope with it, these changes? Because it's a lot of changes.
It is a lot of changes, and with everyone you did have to learn to cope a little more. And again, one of the girls I made friends with, who had been in there for almost 10 years, was a sweetheart, because every time something new would happen, like when they did raid, I was there for one raid where they just kicked in the back doors and came in the front doors, and they came from every area, and they were going through everybody's lockers. And I think it could have been worse, because they said they can throw mattresses over and throw your stuff all over and just destroy the place. And they did not do that. They basically patted down the women as they were leaving to get them all outside. And I don't know if they were looking for something specifically, but they did open some lockers. Ours didn't get open. Really, what happened with mine that was the most frustrating is they locked my locker, and I'm not very good at opening the padlock on it. So I never locked it. I just made it look locked. And it took me forever to figure out how to get back into my padlock and get into I was so mad. I was just like, why did you lock my padlock? So, but it just, more drama for me. I never locked it. I thought, prisoners we don't steal from each other. Well, they do.
Was that surprising to you?
It's surprising to me that there are no ground rules, for them. They're like any other environment of people. They had good people, they had bad people, they had crazy people, they had mean people, they had really nice people. I can't tell you that when I first went in there, I bet people who saw me crying would come up and give me a hug and tell me it's going to be okay. And I bet I had 3 or 4 or 5 hugs when I first got there, which was it was very warming. It made you just feel, you're seeing people in their most vulnerable state, and you're in your most vulnerable state. And you bond completely differently with people when you are that vulnerable. I understand why men and women, when they go into the military and get in life and death situations and they've got each other's backs. Now, I'm not comparing prison to war whatsoever, but I'm just telling you, you get that feeling of, I'm scared to death. I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. And you're in it with some other people, especially if they're new coming in and they haven't been there before, and you bond with them.
Your big takeaway to try and avoid getting shots and so forth, what would you recommend to people going in if it's their first time going in?
Well, you just have to keep a low profile, because to survive, you have to buy things there. You're not going to not get a pedicure, not get a manicure, not have somebody help color your hair. They had a beauty salon on there and where somebody could get it. But if she was full, a lot of the girls did each other's hair. So, and, didn't charge each other for it, or charge something smaller, because you couldn't get into the beauty shop. They're busy, because there was one for the whole campus. My advice to you is just try to carefully pick what you're doing and keep a low profile. Just realize that anything that you've bought that you shouldn't have had, you can lose, and start all over again.
Thank you for listening to How to Go to Camp with Katrina McLarin and Cheryl Womack. For more support, check out the Women of Worth website, www.womenofworth.wow.org, where you'll find helpful resources, including Cheryl's books, Mummy Loves You Everywhere and How to Go to Camp, Surviving in a Women's Federal Prison. Whether you're preparing for the journey or supporting someone through it, remember, there's guidance, hope, and a community ready to help you navigate this path.